Ah, we've made it to the end of the week. It's Friday, thank God. GHK Lall on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on the National Outlook. Thank you for listening and for sharing. Today, we speak about something that we should speak a little bit more. Cricket. But it's also how must I call this? The sociology, the environment, the reality in our world, in our sporting world. And I go to where West Indies cricket captain Jason Holder said, "I'm disappointed at lack of BLM gestures in England series, IPL." He's got a point. He's got a point there, and the gestures, the kneeling, the solidarity against police brutality, against entrenched chronic racism. It's really important, Captain Holder said, that people understand where we as Black people are coming from and understand the harsh reality of how the world is set up. There are inequalities out there. Some of them are very much in our faces. Some are done discreetly. But there are inequalities. And I think it's just a level of education. We've heard about education. I thank Captain Holder for that. He could go and hit the ball and bowl the ball in field and do it well and move along. That was one of the raps against Michael Jordan. LeBron and the others are very much in the forefront today. But Captain Holder spoke of gestures. Interestingly, on July 2nd, BBC commentator, who's also a West Indian Test cricketer, Carlos Brathwaite, some people say Braithwaite, said we need to go beyond the cosmetics of gestures. He understands that. I agree with him that it's necessary. But we need to go beyond the tokens, the gestures, the kneeling, etc. He says we need to reprogram and reconfigure mindsets. And I think that was pretty wise on his part. That's pretty profound. We need to reprogram and reconfigure mindsets. There's a lot of substance that has to go behind the gestures. Regrettably, and I have to talk about this at another time, I think that the Black Lives Movement, the BLM movement, got hijacked. And what started out as noble and inspiring got diminished because of the involvement of a whole set of people who were not about what Black lives are about. And we saw some of that in the streets. We still do, to a lesser degree now. But here is Carlos Brathwaite saying the West Indies captain Holder saying I'm disappointed in the lack of gestures. We need education. We need to change. And Carlos Brathwaite, almost 4 months ago, saying we need to go beyond. And I agree with him. I agree with both of them, but I agree with Carlos Brathwaite more. We need to be about substance. In this country, we need more substance in terms of our race relations. We only talk about it around elections. And before, we're going to do this, and we've got to be about this, and that, and the other. And then we do nothing until the next time around when we rage at each other. But the rage only goes on the ground. We can only legislate so much, my brothers and sisters. We can only educate so much. It has to come from self-education. It has to come from the self-awareness that the way we live, the way we program ourselves, the way we look at life and we look at our neighbors, especially those neighbors who we are competing with, especially those neighbors who don't like us, we have to not reciprocate tit for tat, but find how we can rise to higher ground. That's been our challenge here in Guyana. I didn't hear him, but I understand that the president went on some radio program and spoke about reconciliation. I think that's wonderful. But we've got to go beyond the words. We've got to go beyond what sells, what we think people want to hear. We've got to do. We've got to do. We've got to embody. I have to embody, not you. I have to set that example because I must practice what I'm preaching. I must share what I'm speaking in very tangible terms. Again and again I say, will I have disagreement with you, whomever you are, my own or across the floor? And there's no floor for me. There's no divide for me. That may sound silly. It may sound incredible, but it's where I am. Even though I'll have disagreements with you, sharp disagreements, I must not allow myself to deteriorate to that stage where I need legislation and I need education. Some people do need both. Some people need a lot of education because they've been reared for years and decades from the home, the schoolyard, maybe even the classroom, from our history books, from our news channels that are biased, that are prejudiced, that are very skillful in the language that is presented, the language that fosters bigotry, the language that incites passions and hatreds, the language that comes from our leaders. Our leaders can do a lot, but they can only do so much. So it's good to hear President Ali saying, talking about reconciliation, but we need to reinforce that within ourselves constantly. Do we want this? Or do we want Exxon, our old masters, to come back here and exploit us and divide us and impoverish us? That's what's happening. If you'll notice this week, I haven't spoken anything, not a word about oil. I still am not going to do so. But I'm saying, where are we? How do we want to be as we go forth deeper into the 21st century, into this second millennium? We are nowhere where we need to be. And unless we get that inclusion, unless we get reconciliation, unless we get restoration, well, I don't know if you were ever there, unless we get some sort of conviction that what we need is what we are missing, and therefore we must commit ourselves to being about Black Lives Matter, Indian Lives Matter, Indigenous Lives Matter, Mixed Lives Matter, all Guyanese Lives Matter, then that will be not only our mantra and our watchword, it will be us. It will be me and it will be you. And unless we can hold our neighbor's feet hold our own feet to the fire first, and then hold our neighbor's feet, we're not going anywhere. We can have all the riches in the world, but we could be as poor as hell if we continue going down this road. Until the next time, GHK Lall on Kaieteur Radio 99.1, 99.5 FM on the National Outlook. I thank you for joining us today and for this week. Do have a good weekend. God bless.